What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 3 of Behind the Wheel. Today we're going to be interviewing Jackson and take a deep dive into his automotive history. What's up, Jackson? Why don't you go ahead and tell us about the cars you currently have?
I currently have 2 Mark V Volkswagen Rabbits, 1 Mark 7 Golf R, 2 Mark 1 Rabbit pickups, and a Harley Davidson, if that is relevant.
No, that counts. We love a good Harley. We love a good Harley, yeah, okay. Why don't you go ahead and tell us about your previous car history? I'm talking first car. Go.
First car was a 1992 Mitsubishi Eclipse GSX.
Good old DSM.
Yes,
we love
absolutely.
A DSM. We love a DSM.
I bought it from my parents. I grew up in a first-gen Eclipse. That was my mom's first car, too. Hers was not the same one that I got, but that was kind of where it started, and then it just progressed from there. I had a Subaru Forester, which quite a few people know about after that. And in the time of owning that Subaru is when I started buying Volkswagens.
So. And that Subaru was the RB Forester that's been at like Stanford's, right?
That's the one.
That's the one. Cool.
Currently resides in like Eastern Washington.
All right. What about out of all those cars you've owned, would you say you have a favorite car out of all those?
Mark 6 GTI. Okay. It's the perfect car. Everything about it is perfect. That's, I think.
Okay. And you definitely own a lot of Volkswagens. What made you choose Volkswagen to start modding?
I bought a TDI because I thought diesels were cool, and I hated Volkswagens at the time. I always said I'd never own one. I actually had a friend in high school that had a VR6, and I talked immense amounts of shit on it. Am I allowed to say shit?
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, you're good. We're not getting money for this, but it's just fun. So yeah, shit's fine. Yeah. And if not, Ryan can beep. So
anyways, I talked tons of shit on Volkswagens, hated them. I feel like it's probably just because I wasn't very comfortable with them. And I bought a TDI from an old dude. He had showed up to a shop that I worked at. I always told him if he ever wanted to sell it to let me know. It was a Reflex Silver Mark IV Golf. And he showed up one day with that car and he's like, hey, I decided I'm gonna sell it and you told me to let you know. So I ended up buying it from that guy and was still not super into Volkswagens. It was just cool because it was diesel. And that one, a rivet fell out of the valve cover and into the oil pan and made its way into the oil pump, and that engine seized.
That engine said bye-bye.
And so I actually had to work on it. And that was the first time I'd ever worked on a Volkswagen. And I swapped engines out of it in a weekend. And I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever done. And for some reason, just like the way that they're assembled and the way the Volkswagen does things makes sense in my mind.
Sense in your mind? No, that's fair. I mean, and you've done a lot on the Mark V. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about the Mark V that you've been working on?
This was a $300 Copart car out of Copart, Boise. It was not rebuilt title. It was clean title, but it was abandoned. Somebody had just donated it. So the interior was full of mold. It was pretty gross. Wasn't a great street car. And so I got it shipped out here. It's actually never left this facility since I've owned it. So it's never been on public roads. But yeah, we brought it out here, stripped the interior out of it. Engine bay got stripped out, pressure washed the shell, and then did the cage and worked my way forward and reassembled it.
Okay. And you have tracked this, right?
Yeah, end of last year. It was naturally aspirated. There was a lot of issues. I kept it naturally aspirated with the factory ECU, and it was just an absolute nightmare. Trying to get it tuned and trying to get it to run right was pretty frustrating. So right now I'm wiring in standalone so we can kind of alleviate some of those issues, and hopefully it'll run better this year. But,
and now it's getting a big boy turbo.
And now it's getting a turbo. Now it'll actually make some power.
Paid actor.
Fuck!
And then, I mean, when you got started in this, like, did you have like an inspiration, or do you currently have like an inspiration in the car world that like,
for this car, or just in
general? Like, what, who got you into cars? Was it, your mom said, your mom had a DSM. Is that where like the bug hit you for cars? Or?
Yeah, my parents were kind of into that stuff in like the early 2000s. They dabbled in it, and that was the time that the Fast and the Furious came out.
Okay, like a lot of us, yeah.
Like,
First time we see
lots of people super into
Gotcha.
that. So yeah, that kind of got me into it. I was just really interested as a kid, and then I got really into BMX. I skateboarded a lot, and kind of lost interest in cars. I was too young to do anything with them because Fast and Furious came out 2000, or was it 2001?
I know it's early 2000s for sure, if I remember.
Regardless, I was like 7 years old.
Yeah,
So I was pretty far from doing anything with cars. And so I got way more into other stuff that was relevant.
That's fair.
And when I hit high school, I wanted a Toyota Prius so I could get good gas mileage.
That's fair.
And I could go to as many skate parks as I could find.
That's
And
fair.
That was all I cared about. I had zero interest in cars. And then I got my license, and someone that I went to school, a kid that I rode bikes with, showed me this, what was it, Midori green, I think was the color. It was a Civic.
Oh, Honda, yeah, no.
And yeah, at the time it was just like, I don't really care. And then he showed me that, and I was like, okay, I'd get down with that. And I didn't have enough money for it. My parents had this DSM that was rotting away on the side of the house. And when I say rotting away, I mean like it had sunbaked to the point that, have you ever seen paint when it shrinks?
Oh, no, that's crazy. Yeah.
So like the paint will shrink and you just get spiderweb cracks throughout it all everywhere.
That's crazy.
So it was a dumpster fire.
Gotcha.
But I ended up getting that instead because the price was right.
No, that's fair. Yeah, your parents'
So
car.
yeah, we cleaned out the fuel tank because it was full of goo. And then my grandpa, I got pulled over in it the first day that I had my license. And my grandpa was like, they think you're on drugs because the car looks like shit. so my grandpa got it painted for me.
That's fair. Yeah, nice grandpa.
Yeah, it got painted red.
Okay.
And yeah, being in like the DSM thing kind of took me towards being involved in, like being more interested in Subaru, Mitsubishi stuff. And so made a lot of friends through that. I dropped out of college and got a job at a dyno tuning shop, and all we did was Subarus and Evos. And so as far as like inspiration, just that whole Evo 8.9 Subaru GD chassis, like that era of people really being into those, at least around here, was kind of like the inspiration.
Gotcha.
And yeah, a lot of like design cues for like things that I make now and stuff. I do think back to that stuff a lot.
Yeah, stuff you've learned, transfers, yeah, for
like,
sure.
Like ETS and
Yeah.
companies like that, Grimspeed.
OG, yeah, they've been around for a while. I know that they used to make AMS, all those parts. They make DSM parts, Evo parts, and everything.
Yeah.
And they have some very fast cars.
And that's where like sometimes you just get like design things stuck in your head that you know you pick up somewhere and you just transfer it to everything. So like this.
We're at a racetrack.
Fuck, man!
Gosh. We're at a racetrack, so if it sounds, whatever. That's cool.
Fucking hillbillies over there.
But I know you talked about the Prius a little bit. Personally, I love the new Prius. We talked about this on our motorcycle.
The new
ride.
Prius is cool.
I love the new Prius.
Prius is cool.
So, but I will admit, I'm not the biggest EV fan when it comes to like the cars. I think they all look way too futuristic for me. Currently, I'm just not my style. How do you feel about EVs in the current?
I struggle with the idea of the EV. So I think the EVs have a purpose. I don't think that building EVs seems like something that people are going to do.
Gotcha. Because I know there's a small group of Teslas.
In the same way. We've got people out here. There's Revolting Performance. I think they're actually pretty big, but they do Tesla stuff.
Yeah.
And so like an EV is a good vehicle as a driver.
Yeah, point A to point B. I get you.
Or even just like as a track car. Like if you took the weight out of it and you took the battery life out of it, if you could just go apples to apples with this car, an EV is going to be way more predictable. It's not going to have any dead spots. It's going to be very linear. And it's also going to take a lot of thought out of driving. Whereas this, you've got to be in the right gear, you've got to be in the right RPM, or you're going to have inconsistencies in power delivery and everything. So with an EV, driving is way more fun. And you know, and shifting and all of that is its own thing. But as far as like you're going out and you're trying to put down a good lap time, the EV is going to be a lot more fun. But at the same time, part of motorsports is spectating.
That's fair.
And so like watching Nitrocross did their top level cars, they replaced them with EVs, and it was just boring. Like it's a very visceral experience to go out and watch car racing.
Gotcha.
And so when you go out to watch car racing and it feels like somebody accidentally hit the mute button, it takes away a big aspect of it.
That's right. And that's a big one for me because I love the sound of a motor. I love the sound of a motor. And with an EV, you're hearing more battery, you're hearing more tires, not so RPMs, exhaust, stuff like that. So that's definitely where it's hard for me. But
so I really like a slate truck would be ideal. That's an EV that I can get down with because I need a truck because I want to go from point A to point B and I want to have something that looks cool, but I'm not trying to build a truck.
That's fair.
Like this, I'm building this. I'm not trying to build a truck. I'm trying to go out and buy one and put some cool ass wheels on it and use it to haul my stuff.
I'm a big fan of a mini truck, so I agree.
Yeah. So like,
I would love
like in something like that where I'm not concerned about the like artistic aspect.
Gotcha.
Like to me, this is kind of an artistic aspect, right? Like your idea of placement and all of that for components. Whereas with the EV, you don't have that. But yeah, like a slate truck would be something that I'd be super interested in. Whereas with this, I'm always going to want to build these because it gives me the opportunity to do things like
custom battery box lid.
Yeah, stuff like that. And there's opportunity for little stuff like that on an EV, but just the scope of work is a lot smaller.
Yeah, that's fair. And I know you do like custom printed like brake pedals, gas pedals, stuff like that.
So
as well,
I think they for sure have their place. I think they'll bring a lot of people more into the idea of modifying vehicles. I think it's a lot less scary because, especially like, not to promote the slate truck super hard, especially if somebody watches this and that slate truck ends up being a flop and nobody buys it, just pretend I didn't say this.
Don't be mad at us.
But it's like, it's intended to be modified. It can be personalized.
Yeah, because it's like bare bones.
And it's really intended to be done. And so they make it, the idea is to make it easy, and a lot more people are going to find it accessible, whereas like nobody's going to go buy this car and do this.
This is a pretty niche
Some people
market,
are pretty scared to change a battery.
That's fair, yeah.
So like redesigning the front end of your car, probably, and none of these parts are made, right? You got to make them yourself.
Make them yourself, that's fair.
And so I think the customization for street vehicles and just small personalization will be great with EVs, and I think that's going to be a great market for an EV, is like your daily driver that you can personalize, takes some cost out of operation and some hassle of maintenance. And that's where EVs are for me. As far as looks, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 is like a squared off, almost like like the Lancia Delta or the Mark II.
Yeah, that's what I compared to as a Mark II.
I love that. I hate the interior. The interior is awful. It feels like you're at a coffee shop with the Jetsons. It's terrible. But the exterior, I think it's super rad. And Hyundai seems to be going down that path. They had some concept that was also pretty boxy rally car style. So.
No, that's fair. And I'm all for like if the EVs get kids into the car world or people in the car world, I'm all for that. And like there's so much going on like car scene wise in the world. Like how do you feel about the current car scene that you've seen like around here or anything?
I pay no attention to it.
That's fair.
I would love to, but I don't have any social media. I don't pay attention to the internet. And part of that is like when I do stuff like this car, obviously I have influences from growing up and seeing things, and I see things here and there, but I feel like when you get on the internet, you see trendy things on Instagram. When I had Instagram, I followed a lot of fabricators that did some really cool stuff. But when I see what they do, I start to gravitate towards, those are in my subconscious and I start doing those. So without having social media, without seeing a bunch of other stuff to influence me, I feel like I come up with more things. It's a little more authentic and a little true to what I would naturally.
Gotcha. I like that because you're essentially at the end of the day, you're not copying a single person. This is all Jackson's brain, Jackson's work at the end of the day. And I love that.
I don't see a lot of I guess I'm a little bummed out on the car scene as it is right now, just because like we have events out here, a car show will come out to the racetrack and you really don't see a huge turnout. There's not a lot of attendance. It does seem like it's kind of died off. But maybe that's just, those events. I don't go to other ones. I don't have a great view of it.
Utah's pretty good. We have a huge car scene in Utah, but I think what bothers like most people about like the car shows, it's like people with like stock Hellcats show up, or it's like stock cars with just wheels. There's no, I don't want to say there's no builds anymore, but it's like people will just do wheels, suspension, and call it done.
I think the hardest part about all of that is it seems to me like the stance car craze has kind of died.
Died for sure.
So stance cars are gone. Nobody out here road races because this has just never been a part of Utah car culture.
Yeah.
And nobody drag races because it's
we don't have a track anymore.
The track's now a warehouse. Yeah. And so, I think you probably don't see a lot of builds if it's just me kind of making an observation. I think you don't see a lot of builds just because people don't have a lot of purpose in building one. Like I built this for road racing.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for this, like I'd love to buy a Mark 6 GTI and build like a street racing car.
That's fair.
Maybe not even go like not do any illegal street racing, but just something a big tire front wheel drive car.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah, we talked about that at the roll racing event that was out there.
Yeah, maybe go do the roll racing
event.
event. Yeah, but like you're always building something for a purpose, and I think that the majority of people have lost a little bit of purpose.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And then when you do buy a new car, do you have like the first mod you do on every car? Are you like buy the car, maintenance right out the gate, or you like buy a car, start hoarding parts?
I've never really thought about that.
Because I know personally, I'm a guy who gets the car maintenance very first. Like I don't care if the previous owner said oil change was done. Nah. We're maintenance, brand new maintenance day of. But some people, I guess it's different if you buy a car dealer because then you don't need to worry about that stuff.
Yeah. If you ever buy a car from me, just know that it was taken care of. But
he's very meticulous.
I'm not the guy that goes out and does maintenance right off the bat. Like I maintain stuff for a living.
That's fair.
Work on stuff for a living. So I'm not like stoked to go do that stuff in my free time. Like oil changes, brakes, any of that.
It's all tedious. I get it. Dirty, tedious. I get it. Yeah.
Man, I'd rather ride my bike to work than have to maintain a vehicle. So yeah, like I do it.
That's fair.
I don't do 100,000 mile oil change intervals, but I also don't really ever own vehicles long enough to need to do.
That's fair.
So that's part of my maintenance program.
That's fair.
You change the oil. Car's good to sell.
That's fair.
But first mod depends on the vehicle. And
that's fair. I agree.
What I'm doing with it. So. Over the years, I've gravitated more towards like road racing stuff. So wheels, tires, suspension.
Right off the gate, yeah, that's fair.
That's first thing.
That is kind of
I bought a car and bought it. Like I had the Mark V that's outside. I had coilovers for it before I got the car.
That's smart, yeah.
So
especially if it's got a purpose, you know where you want to go with it.
Yep.
You might as well start. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. And then out of all the mods that you see, we've been to a couple car shows together. We've seen everything, like not just Volkswagen specific. Is there a mod on a car that you absolutely hate?
Turbo timers. It's the worst thing ever. They're awful. If you buy a turbo timer, you're wrong. They had a purpose at one point, and they don't anymore. They just synthetic oil doesn't coke like conventional oil does. If you have a turbo car, you probably have synthetic oil in it.
That's fair.
So coking's not really an issue. Water-cooled bearing housings, that the heat still transfers through the water after the car is shut off. It pulls a lot of heat out of that bearing housing. There's not a lot of purpose in the turbo timer. Even in my Peterbilt that I drive every day, the bearing housing gets hot, right? And that is a thing. And it also doesn't run synthetic oil in it.
What?
Yeah, after this, we're reading again.
Okay.
Son of a bitch. Anyways, but yeah, in my Peterbilt, by the time I get off the freeway, I've sat at the stoplight by my neighborhood. I've pulled into my neighborhood. I've parked my truck. That's all low level running. That's all low heat input. And that's all time that fluids are circulating and pulling heat out of there.
Gotcha.
So the turbo timer is the worst thing ever. You hack up factory wiring and you ruin the car. If you have a turbo timer, you should get rid of the car.
Will the Mark V be at any upcoming car shows this year?
Ideally, it will be at Wasatch Eurofest with your Mark 5.
Mark 5. We'll both be there. Cool. My favorite.
Mark 5's in tandem.
That's fair. Both 07Ks at the car
Both
show.
07Ks.
That's fair. And then next part of this is lightning round. I don't need your reasoning. I just need a quick answer, and we'll go to the next one. You ready? 1.8 or VR?
VR.
Static or bagged?
Static.
Track build, stance build?
I'm going to say stance.
Fair.
I miss it.
Mark 1 or Mark 2?
Mark 1.
Mark 3, Mark 4?
Mark 3.
Mark 5, Mark 6?
6.
Mark 7, Mark 8?
8.
That's fair. Cool. I like your answers. That's fair. I probably agree on most of those. I like it. And we'd like to end the segment with you telling us your favorite joke, Jackson.
How much does a chimney cost?
I don't know. How much?
Nothing. It's on the house.
That's pretty good. I like that. Cool. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to at the end of all this?
All the companies that have helped me over the years. Off the top of my head, Riot Motorsports, a couple buildings down, they're fantastic. They help me out whenever I need it. Wheeler Machinery has given me a good amount of money for this car to help support me doing little kid stuff. Mishimoto has helped out quite a bit. And I'm sure there's ones I'm not going to think of. Integrated Engineering has always been fantastic. Also like to thank Ryan and Benji for being particularly well endowed and having me on their channel. If anyone would like 3D modeling, 3D design parts, or even fabricated parts done, I'll have Ryan put my email in the description because I've got no social media.
No socials, Jackson. Nothing. I'd like to give a huge shout out to Jackson for sitting down with us and answering questions. This has been Behind the Wheel, episode 3.